sensing this danger. This is the greatest showman! He is floating on air now! He's going to send it back.
It's the Multicultural AFL Footy Show with Vanessa Gatica, Habir Singh Kang, Gabriel D'Angelo and George Gracios.
Hello and welcome to the NEMBC's Multicultural AFL Footy Show, round number 2. I am Vanessa Gatica and I'm joined by our two panelists, Habir Singh Khan and Gabriel D'Angelo. Hello guys.
Hello Vanessa.
Vanessa, Habir.
What a week we had. Finally footy was back with roaring crowds at the MCG. The Richmond Tigers fought out a grinding win against Carlton and the Western Bulldogs put Collingwood away. However, there were a couple of huge upsets last weekend when the Crows beat the Cats and the Sydney Swans defeated the Brisbane Lions. The most thrilling game was the Hawks coming back from 44 points down to beat the Bombers by a point. So let's analyze those games, boys. Your thoughts, Habir, the seriously unexpected results this weekend. What are your thoughts about it?
They are seriously unexpected, but I did sort of have that feeling from Adelaide Crows because we see that the teams which are young and which are hungry, they do some upsets. And I think Geelong, they, with the missing of Jeremy Cameron and the way they were able to negate the effect of Tom Hawkins at the front, I think they did, everything went right for the Adelaide Crows. And I think the way things are at the moment where they're finding the target Tom Hawkins with the absence of Jeremy Cameron, they didn't have anyone else. So they probably needed to find more avenues where they can score goals as well. So that's probably what got Cats to pump it, I would say. And then I think the other part, as I mentioned you before, I think it was the hunger factor. And then we saw that with the Sydney Swans as well. The team, the way they come in, they've been last year and probably years before as well, they've been criticized for playing too slow, playing like as in with low scoring game and gone to defensive side. I think we saw that approach changing this year as well. And add that Buddy Franklin into that team, I think that team can surprise everyone. And with Sydney, it's pretty much like every year. You don't know. You can't really predict the games they're playing in. Anything can happen. So that's what happened. And I believe Brisbane, I think they shot themselves in the foot. I think they were probably a bit complacent or so. And I think they're going to cop a spray from Chris Fagan now. I think they will come out stronger next week. But all in all, these two upsets were like, pretty big.
Well, yeah, there were big upsets, but also, as you were mentioning about Geelong, I mean, with the players that they still have at their disposal, it's not like they had mass wholesale changes due to injury or form. So, I mean, really, Geelong should have beaten Adelaide.
Definitely.
I don't know if it's because of a variety of different factors. Maybe they still have the hangover of the loss from last season, or maybe they didn't respect Adelaide. They probably thought they were just going to walk in and win by 100 points. I don't know. It could be either way. Also, it could be, like you said, the hunger factor. Maybe Adelaide really want to sort of forget about what happened last season and all the stuff that happened in the famous camp and just move on and start anew. It could be all of the above. We don't know. But congratulations to Adelaide, because I don't think anybody would tip in them.
No.
So congratulations to them. And yes, what you were saying about Sydney, we don't know what Sydney can come in this season. I think that some people are underestimating Sydney a little bit. I think that Sydney still have the good young talent, and plus they've got Franklin who will come back. And Longmire is a very good coach, is a decent coach, and he can get a lot out of him. So I wouldn't be surprised if Sydney will obviously win quite a few more games and even make it to the top 8. Brisbane, on the other hand, I think they will probably, as you said, complacent. They need to seriously think, hang on, like, we're going to be the hunted now. We're no longer the hunters, we're the hunted. People are going to scalp us, like they're going to seriously want to beat us and take us down. So they have to change that mindset a little bit.
Yeah, hopefully it's not like the 2 years they've been on performing very good, and hopefully they don't go down this year. Another one, Collingwood Bulldogs, which we were looking forward to, especially us. That was a win, nevertheless, but I wouldn't say it was a convincing win though. The amount of disposals and other stats that were in favour of Bulldogs, I think they've missed out on a lot of goals, and that that's why I'm not sure how it will rack up against the good teams. Like, okay, with Collingwood, we know that they are not that good this year. So everyone is sort of tipping they might move out of top 8. So it wasn't really a test. So nevertheless, a good start for Truro, good start for everyone else. They probably got their thing going where they know what their positions are. Big tick to Stephen Martin and Tim English working together. So there were like a lot of positives out of that, but the scoring issue, which has been hindering the Bulldogs, and it's still going on. It pains you as a fan as well. And then it sort of when it comes against teams like Richmond or someone else, where you just give them like one chance and they will just gobble you up. I don't think they will be stacking up that good.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, with the especially the midfield that the Bulldogs has, I mean, really, you would expect them to really put Collingwood away much earlier. But you're right. I think that what was plaguing them last season, where they have so many opportunities, so many inside 50s, so many shots at goal, and they either miss or don't really execute properly, that is going to bite them if they're going to face teams like Richmond and all that. So, and plus, I think that Collingwood, they did their supporters a major disservice, because some of the criticism aimed at Collingwood was that it didn't look like that they were energised or even trying. They were just like walking through it. It's almost like they're sleepwalking to another failure, which some people might say is the case. They really needed to do much better. I always thought that the Bulldogs were going to win, but I think that Collingwood should have given their fans a little bit more, especially seeing as things were falling apart so badly off season.
Yeah, no, definitely. And Richmond, there was no surprise there. We know that if mentioned last episode as well, if Richmond doesn't want to be beaten on a day, I think they can beat any team.
Yeah.
And Carlton, I think they really
strong,
need,
right?
And they really need to step up their game. They need to play 4 quarters. They have the potential. They got the players, and it was good to see Saad getting into that. Although they missed Zach Williams, but I think when he's in, I think it looks like a good team, which can surprise a few.
Absolutely. It wasn't that Carlton were bad. It's just that Richmond were just a notch above. But there are definitely some good signs for Carlton this season. I think they'll do really well. And the Hawthorn-Essendon match, what an amazing performance from Hawthorn. Fantastic.
Oh, wow.
Exciting, right?
Yeah. Well, there you go.
We're thinking that Essendon might have a lot of issues because on and off field things, but I think good on them for putting up a good show as well. So, and Hawks with the young brigade and few debutants, I think they did really well.
And we'll be back with more reviews after the break. You are with the Multicultural AFL Football Show. Welcome back. Melbourne at the MCG finally hit their straps and won. Beating Freo by 22 points, Port Adelaide trashed North Melbourne by 52 points, while St Kilda managed to beat the GWS Giants by 8 points. West Coast and the Gold Coast Suns fought out a tight battle with the Eagles taking the points. Gerville, would you like to start?
Well, I have no choice.
Please.
But look, I think with Melbourne, a fantastic performance. They did really, really well. The young guys really stepped up. Fremantle, on the other hand, I thought they were very disappointing. I thought we were expecting a little bit more from Fremantle. Yes, they had their problems last season, but we saw them progressively getting better. We thought maybe they could give Melbourne a bit of a surprise, a bit of a headache, but Melbourne were just too good from start to finish. Port Adelaide against North Melbourne, well, what can you say? I mean, Alir, fantastic in the air. He was brilliant. And Fantasia, he was excellent. I mean, he played one of his best games all his career. They were excellent additions. I think they were those little missing pieces to the puzzle that Port Adelaide need if they're going to really make it all the way to the grand final and potentially win another flag. But North Melbourne, I mean, they were starting okay for the first couple of seconds, and then it just went downhill. But with the young guys that they've got, and with the lack of experience that this team has, we're not going to expect much from them. But it's time will tell what can happen. The West Coast Eagles against Gold Coast, fantastic game. Gold Coast almost got there. Unfortunately, another injury for Matty Rowell. He's just an extremely unlucky player. Really unfortunate, but West Coast were just too experienced and too strong. And, St Kilda against GWS, considering that there were so many of their big guns unavailable through injury and other reasons that they went up there in Sydney in the wet to beat GWS from behind when they were about 20 points down near the end of the game, for St Kilda to win that game, for Higgins to get 2 goals in his debut, just like he did when he was at Richmond. It was a fantastic result. So, fantastic for St Kilda.
So, another good addition to St Kilda team, as I mentioned, Higgins this time. And that's why I was saying last time as well that St Kilda, because the team has got have that like a mojo or so, where they understand their coach, where the coach understands the player, and the players are understanding each other as well. So in this case, like even if you're missing a couple of players here and there, the ones who come in, they sort of fit into that place. So I think that's what's happening with St Kilda, and which is a very good sign. And the way this team played with all those names out, add those names into it, where would St Kilda go? So looks like he won't be able to wipe off this smile whole year.
No, we haven't won yet. It's just round 1.
But GWS Giants, like they really need to do some introspection. They've been losing a lot of players lately, and they really need to know what their future holds, and then they need to work on it. I think the way things are at the moment, GWS doesn't look like they're going forward, and Toby Green is their only hero. He took best mark ever.
They lose a key player, right?
Yeah. So and so with the other players need to sort of step up their game as well if they want to get somewhere this season. Melbourne Fremantle, as you said, we expected more of Fremantle, but they couldn't deliver. Then again, it's very good for Melbourne fans. They could see that Jack Lever and Stephen May, they're finally finding good things at the back. They're working together well, and their forwards are working well as well. I wouldn't say Fremantle was a very big test for Melbourne as such, but I think still getting the win in the first round will give a lot of hope to the Melbourne fans and their management and everyone. And Simon Goodwin, like he can probably feel a bit relieved with the special first win. So hopefully Melbourne can put up more big shows later on. And there was nothing much in North Melbourne and Port Adelaide. We also we all see that they will be more than hungry at the moment, Port Adelaide side, the way they've left. And as we mentioned before, they got few good additions. Lear at the back, Fantasia at the front, and that's so awesome. And I believe Port Adelaide's got a very, very bright future at this stage.
Okay, moving right along, we have a blockbuster tonight starting in about 10 minutes. From the G will be Carlton against Collingwood. No love lost between these two. Tomorrow evening, Geelong at Cattery play Brisbane. This is a crucial game for both sides after their dismal performances last weekend. Javier, what are your thoughts in those games?
Well, both these sides can do something well for their fans this week. Carlton against Collingwood, I think it's going to be a great game. Carlton hold a little bit of edge for me in this game because the way they played against Richmond last time, I think that was a very good game. They couldn't continue on for 4 quarters, but the way Collingwood played, I don't think they are strong enough to challenge good teams. And I would say Carlton at this moment, with the kind of players they got and the new inclusions in their team, I think they seem like a very good team. So I think it's going to be Carlton coming on the top. And with Geelong Cats and Brisbane Lions, Geelong can't ask for more. Home game after that performance against Adelaide Crows, after that thrashing, and then with Dangerfield going out as well. Yeah. I think they couldn't ask for more. Home crowd, home ground, they should give Brisbane a very hard time. And on the other hand, I think Brisbane needs to show that whatever we've seen from them in the last couple of years, they're still the same.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, if there's any sides that really need to prove a point, I mean, I think with the Carlton-Collingwood game, I think Carlton are a little bit of a notch above Collingwood at the moment. I think even though, yes, they did lose to Richmond, they sort of still had a respectable loss. They lost admirably. I think there are good signs for Carlton this season, but boy, do Collingwood really need to give their fans something. They really need to lift in this game. Against the old enemy, they can't afford to be smashed against Carlton. They really need to give their fans something, especially with all the criticism aimed at them from their performance, where they were quite insipid against the Bulldogs. And they were very lucky that the Bulldogs were very inaccurate and sort of sloppy at some points, because if it was against Richmond, it would have been a bloodbath. So Collingwood really, really need to give their fans something. But I think purely on form alone, I think Carlton should win this comfortably, and boy, wouldn't that give them a boost, beating Collingwood and then going into the next game. Geelong and Brisbane, boy, do both sides really need to to really redeem themselves from last week's performance. I think Geelong at home should be too strong, but Brisbane, you never know what could happen. And as you said previously in the other segment, I think Chris Fagan has given them a big kick up the backside. So who knows what could happen? You know, Brisbane could come out firing. We don't know, but they've got the potential to do it. So Geelong have to be careful. They can't be disrespectful to Brisbane like they were to Adelaide, purely on the fact that they're at home, and then they need to bounce back after their performance against Adelaide. I'm going to tip Geelong.
Yeah, same with me. I'm going for Geelong as well in this one.
Go Cats. Thank you, guys. The panel will be back on the other side of this short break for the rest of this week's previews. Stay tuned. As we continue with our previews of the last 7 games of the second round, continuing with Saturday's games, Sydney at the SCG takes on the Adelaide Crows. Port Adelaide at home plays Essendon. St Kilda and Melbourne clash at Marvel Stadium. And the Gold Coast host North Melbourne. 4 tough games. Who wants to go first?
I would say the best game for me would be St Kilda versus Melbourne. 2 teams who would be very hungry to win, who would be putting everything on the line, I would say. And that's going to be an awesome match for me. Although I would say St Kilda's are a bit favourites for me this season, as I've been talking about them. So Melbourne, I think they will put up a very good show, I hope. And we will have a cracker of a match. Whoever wins, I think it's going to be a close game for me. But I think St Kilda might come out on top. And they have a little bit of advantage with being at Marvel as well. So with Sydney Swans and Adelaide Crows, look, anybody's game. We'll see who's more ferocious on that day and comes on top. But again, I think if Buddy Franklin comes in, I think it's going to be Sydney at a whole new level, which might help them edge past Adelaide Crows on that one. And Port Adelaide versus Essendon at Adelaide Oval. Okay, I don't think Essendon sort of got any chance, but would be good to see Orazio Fantasia against his old side, and it's gonna be a good cracker. Let's see. We hear the boos, the clap, like what happens. But if he kicks a bag of goals, I mean, yes, there will be a very bad looks on Essendon fans after that. And Gold Coast Suns versus North Melbourne, best chance for Gold Coast Suns to prove their point. I think they are looking a bit stronger than North Melbourne.
Yeah, I mean, Gold Coast versus North Melbourne, you would think Gold Coast should win pretty comfortably. North Melbourne don't really think stand a chance in that one. Sydney versus Adelaide, that's going to be an interesting encounter. I think Adelaide are not going to be beaten easily. I think the days of them being smashed like they were last year, I don't see it happening. I think Sydney are going to win comfortably, but I don't think Adelaide are going to embarrass themselves like they did last season. So I think Sydney are going to be too strong. Port Adelaide versus Essendon, that's going to be a very interesting one, not just because of Orazio Fantasia, but Essendon, by God, they have to repay their fans after that abysmal effort last week, where 44 points ahead against one of the old enemies in Hawthorn and losing the way they did. That was really, really bad, and there's going to be a lot of pressure, probably not to sack him, but there might be a lot of pressure on Brett Ratton if they have another bad loss. So, but I think Port Adelaide should be strong. St Kilda and Melbourne, that's going to be a good one. They had a very good game last season when both teams were sort of fighting for a chance in the top 8, and it was a close one to Melbourne. I think this time around St Kilda are going to win.
Thank you, guys. Very well then. On Sunday, Hawthorn goes head-to-head with Richmond. Western Bulldogs at Marvel play the West Coast Eagles. And Fremantle takes on GWS Giants. Javier.
Well, Fremantle versus GWS Giants. I think Fremantle are in a bit of a disarray at the moment. I think Joel Hamling is not playing. I think there's going to be a lot of defensive issues with him not being there. So I think GWS Giants, after that they lost last week, I think they will come out hard, and especially with the Optus Stadium in the. It's you want to give advantage to Fremantle because it's their home game. So what I can say is they can probably put up a good show unless they can surprise us. But I think GWS Giants will pounce on that fact that they don't have such a good defensive setup. They'll be missing Joel Hamling. I think Pierce is out as well. So they're gonna be have some problems at the back. So I think Giants will come on top. Well, in the other game, I think Western Bulldogs should be favourites. They should win this one unless they are really wasteful. Plus, when we see at the West Coast Eagles, the kind of team they have, they can beat any team on any day or on any ground with their players at the back performing well. Barras, McGovern in good form. Kelly in the middle side, he's finding good feet as well. And then we've got all the Ryans and Kennedy and Darling who can kick a bag of goals, which is a very dangerous situation for Bulldogs defense as well. So I think there's going to be a hard-fought contest, but I think Bulldogs hopefully come on top. And Hawthorn versus Richmond. Look, I don't know, Hawthorn is a very unpredictable, and especially their 23rd player, or actually 24th now because we have sub now. So they're Lester Clarkson. I think he's a genius and he might come up with something to stop Richmond. I've just got this gut feeling that it's going to be a close game. It's not going to be an easy win, but to tip against Richmond, I don't think I can at this stage.
Yeah, Hawthorn versus Richmond is going to be an interesting one. Yes, Alistair Clarkson, you're right, is a complete and utter genius. The way they won against Essendon last week was amazing. But this one is going to be a little bit tougher because Richmond, I'm like you, I just don't see a reason to tip against them right now. They're just playing such amazing footy right now and they're just full of confidence. I just don't think Hawthorn are going to go near them at the moment. So I think Richmond should win that comfortably. Fremantle against GWS, I think Fremantle at home, they could win that game. GWS were a bit disappointing against St Kilda. Yes, St Kilda played very, very well, but there were moments where GWS really could have put the game away and they didn't, and they just allowed St Kilda to come back. And therefore, I don't know if they could really beat Fremantle at home. I think Fremantle, they're going to be one of those teams that could potentially cause an upset and make it into the 8. Who knows? We don't know. But I think they'll be close to it. I think that they're a team that are gradually improving, and I think that they're going to be strong at home. So I think Fremantle can beat GWS. And the Bulldogs against the Eagles, that is going to be an amazing game. I'm going to be really looking forward to seeing that. You've got the midfield of the Western Bulldogs, which some say is the best in the competition. They've got such fantastic little running guys. But you've got the big guys of the West Coast Eagles. You know, as you mentioned, it is going to be an extremely tight game. But I think that on paper, I think the Western Bulldogs might not make it. I think the Eagles are a little bit too strong, and as you said, they can win anywhere. So I think the West Coast Eagles, they could beat the Bulldogs, and I know I'm saying that against two Bulldog supporters.
Okay, you want to think about it.
Yeah. He's giving us more reason to hate him.
There's more? Unbelievable. But yeah, so I think Eagles just might win that one.
Okay. Well, thank you guys. Which brings us to my tips this week. So I'm going to tip Carlton, Geelong, Sydney, Port Adelaide, St Kilda, North Melbourne, Richmond, of course, Western Bulldogs, and GWS Giants. Well, that's all we have time for this week. You can also watch us in Adelaide on Channel 44 Friday evenings, on Aurora-Foxtel TV at midday Saturdays, and on the NEMBC AFL YouTube. You are listening to this podcast on the Community Radio Network, and the AFL Diversity News in 8 languages can be heard on select national multicultural radio stations. I am Vanessa Gatica.
I'm Harveer Singh.
I'm Gabriel D'Angelo.
Thank you, and see you next week.